Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 59 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. Yes, it is your main man, T-Squared, Tristain Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us this week. Today, we've got to talk about what's happening on the extension front with the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis. Is there any news? We got to talk about the Green Bay Packers picking themselves back up off the mat after a tough loss in the previous week. Toss sweep, we're talking Christmas Day for the NBA. And we're talking about the NFL's COVID BS. Man, it's a lot of it. But y'all know how we get down. You know how we get things started here on Toss. We got to go with the state of the state. And let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. Is there any news on the Bucks front? Is there any news about a Supermax extension signing by Giannis Antetokounmpo? There is not. There is absolutely no news, and people are starting to lose their minds over it, but we'll get to them in a second. There was a little bit of news, those cryptic tweets that had the Milwaukee Bucks showing aerial shots of Lake Michigan and other locations, mostly of water. The first tweet that they put out there, I had already called it. I said, hey, Lake Blue Unis confirmed. And a lot of people took it as a bit of a joke, but I was serious. Lake Blue Unis confirmed. And they did officially confirm those today. The gathering place, Lake Blue Unis, they are very, very nice. I do kind of like them. The coating on the numbers to make the numbers look wet. We saw that under a certain light. They put a small video out about that. The numbers do look wet. Goes along with the theme of the three rivers that run through Milwaukee, celebrating Lake Michigan and the land that sits on all of that, and the team that brings everyone together, hence the gathering place, Milwaukee, the Milwaukee Bucks. It's not the news that people wanted. People are getting overly anxious about Giannis signing this Supermax extension that is sitting on the table. And now, first things first, just because he's eligible to sign it doesn't mean that he will. Just because the time has come and the NBA is allowing him to sign this contract doesn't mean that he's going to, as soon as the time hits that he's allowed to sign it, doesn't mean he's going to sign it, because he has it to this point. He has it till December 21st, the day before the season begins. And the Bucks will also be playing a couple days after that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Giannis has recently come back to Milwaukee after spending some time over in Greece, getting his workouts in, spending time with family, doing his whole off-season thing, except this time it's abbreviated with the way the season ended last year and the bubble and this worldwide pandemic. It's very different for everyone. But people are losing their minds over this, and it's like, look, he still has time to sign it. If one thing we've come to know about Giannis that's been on full display is that he doesn't like distractions. Doesn't like them. He will do everything he can to make sure that he's not distracted and the team is not distracted, so they can go out there and be the best version of themselves and get the best results to go out there and win handsomely. That's what Giannis is all about. He's business. He's focused. He wants to win championships. And that's really what this boils down to. And I guess this is part of the reason why people are a little bit freaked out about the fact that the freak, no pun intended, has not signed the Supermax extension. It's because this is not money motivated for Giannis whatsoever. Usually you could get a good player and you give them a bunch of money and, hey, they'll stay because they can't get more anywhere else. And everyone, man, woman, child, I mean, everybody wants to be paid their worth. But some things, for some people, weigh heavier than money. Giannis wants to win NBA championships. Now it's been reported that he's going to have a meeting with management and discuss the Supermax extension. And really this meeting is no different than the after season meeting that he usually has with management. And and he also usually talks to them before the season begins to see what's what. He's going to talk to them about this, but I think it's more so, did we really do everything we possibly could to make this roster a championship roster? Yes, they went out there and got a huge piece in Drew Holiday. And I think that is a big move that's being lost amongst the whole Bogdanovich collapse and the whole tampering BS investigation that's going on. Drew Holiday is a huge piece, a huge addition, and a big upgrade over Bledsoe. And again, this is not to poo-poo what Bledsoe did. Regular season Bledsoe was great. Postseason Bledsoe, not so much. And that's what it boils down to. That is what this team is going to be judged by. What do you do in the postseason? You could go out there and wreck shop and win 60 games and win 70 games. But if you're getting bounced in the second round again, it doesn't matter. Because that's all anyone remembered about the Bucks from last season. They got bounced by the Miami Heat in 5 games in the Eastern Conference semis. They don't remember the 3-game losing streak that they came in to the bubble on. They don't remember how much they struggled within the bubble in the seeding games, how they still didn't really look right against Orlando in the first round, losing the first game, then handing those boys a gentleman's sweep. They just remember when they got bounced. And the fact that everybody had them penciled in as making the NBA Finals. And a lot of people had them winning the NBA Finals, myself included. So Bledsoe in the regular season was great, but he just did not put it together in the postseason. That is when it matters most. So you go and get a guy who has playoff experience in Drew Holiday. You get a guy who you do not lose anything defensively with him. He's making your defense a lot better. Take smarter shots, can actually hit better shots than Bledsoe, and can orchestrate a little bit better. One of the most underrated players in the NBA is now on your squad. So that was a championship move made by John Horst. But Giannis wants to sit down and really discuss it. Did we do enough? What can we do now and in the future to ensure that this roster is going to be championship caliber year in and year out? Because that's what I'm in it for. I can go and make my coins. I'm not worried about that. I got endorsements. I got other business dealings. I'll make my money and be able to take care of myself and my family. That is not the worry for me. The worry for me is my job here in the NBA and on the Milwaukee Bucks. And my job is to help lead this team to NBA championships. But I can't do it alone. We need players who are going to put us over the top to help ensure this happens. And we need front office types like yourself and like ownership to put us in position to get those players, secure those players, and keep us in championship contention year in and year out, because that is what I'm in it for. And that's what's freaking people out, because money is not going to entice Giannis. 220, 230, 240 million. It's a gigantic number. Let's be real. It's a huge number. And a lot of people out there, a lot of you listening right now are not going to scoff at that. You're going to say, 230, I don't care if we win 15 games. I'm signing it because I'm getting my coins. Personally, I wouldn't say that, because I'm in it to win championships too. But that's a different story for a different day. But many people would have already signed it as soon as they were eligible to sign it. Giannis is not those people. Giannis wants to win championships. It's not about the money for him. He continues to put in that hard work, continues to yield results, continues to be himself. He's going to have ample opportunity from many different places to go and make money. That is not the worry for him. He wants to win NBA championships, and if anything, that should be applauded. If he doesn't sign the Supermax with Milwaukee, it's not going to be because they didn't offer him enough. He's not going to be able to go and get the same amount from anywhere else. So you can't vilify him for that. If he does not sign the Supermax, it's because he feels that John Horst and Bucks ownership did not put them in position to get the players needed to keep them in championship contention and now and in the future. You really have to put yourselves in his shoes. What would you rather do? He's been on a team that's won 15 games. It ain't fun. He's been on a team that's won 33 games, winning only 10 road games that season, Jason Kidd. It ain't fun. He wants to be on a team that is competing for championships, not just competing to get to the playoffs, not that chase to 8 attitude that Herb Cole and gotta love him. Done a lot for basketball to keep basketball in the state of Wisconsin and the city of Milwaukee. We'll always be thankful for him for that. Big part of why the 5-Star Forum exists today. But he had that chase to 8 mentality. That's not what Giannis is about. He's fully engaged. He wants to win championships. You have to bring in the pieces that are going to allow this team to chase after championships. That is what it's going to come down to. No amount of money is going to entice him to stay. It's what pieces do you have now? What pieces can you acquire to keep us competitive and to keep us in that championship air? Because that's what I'm in it for. That's what I view myself as. That's the type of work I'm putting in. Those are the kinds of results that I'm trying to bring to the table. You have to do the same. You have to meet me meet me halfway, and we have to do this together because I can't do it alone. So it's understandable. When you don't think about it that way, it's understandable why people freak out. But you really have to think about it. Really think about the psyche of Giannis. Really think about everything and the type of human being and the type of player that he's exhibited himself to be. It's not about the money for him. He's not trying to squeeze the Bucks for extra. The contract that he's still on currently, he handed money back so the team could go and sign other players to put them in contention to not just make the playoffs, but be competitive in the playoffs year in, year out. He's done the franchise a solid. It's not about the money for him. Like I said, everybody wants to be paid their worth, and he will be paid his worth. But it won't mean a thing, a damn thing, if you're not putting the pieces together to go after championships. Because otherwise, what are you in the league for? And that's the type of player that Giannis is. And that's why people are shook. Why hasn't he signed the extension yet? Well, he's taking a look at the entire landscape. Y'all are playing checkers. He's playing chess. I said it before and I said it again. I'm fully committed on this. He has not given anybody any reason to think that he's being disingenuous when he says he wants to be in Milwaukee and that they'll see. He already made a comment that, hey, if AD and LeBron want to come to Milwaukee and play with him, he doesn't care if he's number 1, 2, or 3. No, he added KD in that as well. If they want to come to Milwaukee and play with him, then all good. And I'm paraphrasing that. It's about the players you can acquire to bring this team and keep this team in championship air to be competing for NBA championships and not just playoffs. It ain't about the money. It ain't about the endorsements. It ain't about whatever little perks that you can wring out of a franchise when you are a generational talent. It's about not squandering this generational talent and bringing in championships, multiple championships, because that is what that generational talent is there for. So everybody just needs to calm down, breathe, think about it for a little bit, but don't think too hard. Season begins really soon, couple of weeks. You have this season to enjoy, 70 plus games. Giannis is under contract with this team for this season. Whenever he decides to sign that Supermax, whenever he decides that John Horst and this ball club have done enough to keep this team in championship contention for many years to come, we'll all be better for it. But you have to be patient. You have to be patient. Understand that it's a lot deeper than the amount of zeros that come after that big number that starts at the beginning of those large zeros. Continuing here on Toss, State of the State, let's talk the Green Bay Packers. They picked themselves up off the mat after a tough overtime loss in Indianapolis where they just could not hold on to a football. No problems with that. This go around a 41-25 thumping, dog walking, molly-whopping of the hapless Chicago Bears. And it wasn't even that close. Wasn't even close. You're talking in the third quarter, they extended that lead to 41-10. Rodgers was his efficient self, 21-29. Over 200 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, another touchdown catch. He now has 11 on the season. Another double-digit touchdown reception season for him. He's just been incredible. The running game made an appearance. Yes, the running game made an appearance. "39 carries, 182 yards, and a touchdown. That is a Matt LaFleur running team right there. Jamal Williams with 17 carries for over 70 yards and a rushing touchdown. Aaron Jones, 17 carries, 90 yards. Good balance right there. Good balance to go along with the passing game. You lost Corey Linsley to a sprained MCL, but you reshuffled that offensive line yet again, and they played well, especially against a tough. Let's be clear. This ain't the 85 Bears defense, but they still pose a tough challenge defensively, especially with a guy like Khalil Mack coming off the edge. And yes, they were missing Akeem Hicks, which is a significant blow to that defensive line for Chicago, which is why they had a lot more success running the football. Let's be real. You run it where he ain't. Well, he was nowhere to be found, so you ran it all over him. But the job Mercedes Lewis did on Khalil Mack, the job that entire offensive line did to keep Rodgers upright, did not get hit, did not get sacked. You don't expect that with a team with linebackers like Khalil Mack and Danny Trevathan for Rodgers to be still upright, not getting hit and not getting sacked. That just goes to show you how stellar this offensive line truly is. Despite all the shuffles, they continue to be elite. The defense stepped up and played pretty elite. They forced 3 turnovers. Darnell Savage got 2 picks off of Mitchell Trubisky. Zadarius Smith forces the fumble on Trubisky. Preston Smith scoops it up. Yes, Preston Smith sighting scoops that up for a touchdown, when you're creating turnovers and you're getting scores off of it, that's a great recipe for a great win, and that's exactly what it was, and you needed one. You let that game against the Colts get away from you. 28-14 at the half, there's no reason to cough up a lead like that. Now, again, the Colts are a good team. But there is no reason to cough up a 2-score lead, a 14-point lead like that, scoring only 3 points in the second half. That's just not going to get it done. And that seems to be the consistent effort that we see from the Packers against winning ball clubs. They have yet to beat a winning ball club. That's concerning. Now, I wrote about this on the Toss blog on tossnationmedia.com that at some point, what they've done against the likes of a Chicago, they're going to have to do that against these playoff teams and these winning teams if they do, in fact, make it to January in postseason. Of their 5 remaining games, they have won against a team that is currently firmly over 500. That's the Tennessee Titans at 8-3. And that game has already given me nightmares. Derrick Henry against this Packers run defense. I mean, you'll be lucky if he doesn't break the NFL single game rushing record. But that is an opportunity for them to show that they can put together a complete effort against a winning ball club. You love the first half effort that they had against the Colts, but they didn't complete it. You love the first quarter energy they had against Tampa until midway through that quarter. And then they got waxed. They have got to start putting these consistent efforts against every single team, including the winning teams. It truly is concerning. You try to look for the good. And they played well on Sunday. Don't get me wrong. Like, the games are played on paper. Yes, Chicago came in on a losing streak, a 4-game losing streak. You sent them out on a 5-game losing streak. You also put them under 500 for the season at 5-6. Huge divisional game. You need these games. You need these wins. You're in a hotly contested race for the number 1 seed in the NFC and also the only bye. That's if COVID doesn't mess things up, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the Tall Sweep. You need to stack wins, but you also need to stack effort. You have got to start doing this against the winning teams. Now, again, as I said before, you only have 5 games remaining. Only one of them is against a team firmly over 500, which is the Tennessee Titans, again at 8-3, leading the AFC South. And again, that game has given me nightmares thinking about Derrick Henry and what he's going to do against this running defense. If Chicago kind of rights the ship, you may have a game against them to end the season where they're at 500. Or maybe under 500, or maybe they might get close to 500, a game over 500. Whatever the case may be, they could have a tie, something like that, something crazy. But your next opponent, the Philadelphia Eagles, who did not put up a great showing or a great fight on Monday Night Football against Seattle, which you would have loved to see them knock off Seattle because, again, they're in that race for the number 1 seed, and they're currently over the Packers right now. They're having all sorts of issues. Carson Wentz just, after he tore his ACL against the Rams those few years back, it's just, he's fallen off of a cliff. And people have to remember, he was having an MVP caliber season. Whatever it is, you hope he finds it. You just hope he doesn't find it against the Packers coming up on Sunday afternoon. 3-7-1, and somehow, some way, they're a half game out of first place. The NFC least strikes again. But the Packers have got to find consistent effort against not only the losing teams, but the winning teams. January is coming. You hope to be a part of that. You still got some work to do. At this point, it looks like you may be a part of that, but with 7 teams being a part of the playoffs, 5 games remaining, anything could happen. You have to start showing consistent effort and complete effort over the teams that are winning to get yourselves ready for January. And that's the state of the state. The Bucks got new unis, but not a new contract extension from Giannis. And the Packers, great showing against another under 500 team. When are they going to do this against the winning teams? You got to find a way to put those efforts together against playoff caliber teams. It just has to happen. Let's move on to the toss sweep. Toss Sweep, brought to you by the good folks over at tossnationmedia.com. Toss Nation Media, your home for the Toss Sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. The Christmas Day schedule for the NBA has come out. Now let's put that little asterisk next to it. COVID permitting. I want to make that very clear. COVID is going to have a say over all of this, especially seeing as how they're not playing in the bubble anymore. Christmas Day schedule has come out, and the Milwaukee Bucks are on said schedule. And they got a good game. The only problem with that is no one's going to be allowed in the building to see it. So, of course, the NBA would give the Milwaukee Bucks a home game on Christmas. And I believe the Bucks have played the last 2 Christmases. And they've both been on the road. One in New York against the Knicks, and I believe the other one in Philly, that tough loss where everybody was like, oh, this is embarrassing, and the Bucks are just, they're starting to go down a tank, and this is Philadelphia is on the rise, and, you know, their seasons went opposite directions. Philly wasn't really doing much of nothing. That was probably their biggest win of the season. It was on the biggest stage, on the biggest day of the NBA, and that was about all they did well that entire season. It just did not work. But the Bucks will be facing the Warriors. Now, that is the second game of the day. The first game of the day, again, asterisk, COVID permitting. Pelicans and Heat, and these times are Eastern time, at noon. Good young team against good young team, or I should say a talented young team in the Pelicans against a good young team in the Heat. Eastern Conference champions. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, Warriors, Bucks. Steph Curry is back healthy. Draymond Green. They got their second overall pick in Wiseman. Andrew Wiggins. You just really wish that Klay Thompson would be out there. And I'm still hurting for him, man. Speedy recovery to him. Tearing his Achilles. He'll make a full recovery. He's already had surgery on that, but man, just a tough road for him. Overcoming one injury just to get another one before the season even starts. One of the greatest shooters of all time this game has ever seen in Klay Thompson. You just wish he was out there for that. The 5 p.m. Eastern time game, Nets Celtics. You got KD, you got Kyrie for the Nets. Good young squad with the Celtics. Of course, the primetime slot goes to the defending world champion Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, those boys out there. They'll be facing the Mavericks. Of course, this will be in L.A. Good young squad in the Mavericks. Luka Doncic. And to wrap up the night, the 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time game, Clippers and Nuggets. Clippers a bit of a mess right now, man. And the Nuggets, again, another good team. So all the games are actually really good this year. There's not really a game that you can just kind of throw away and say, nah, no, I don't like that. They're all very, at least in my eyes, they're all very intriguing games. Really excited about the Bucks being on Christmas Day again, but and excited that they're at home at the Fiserv Forum. But it is really, really sad, the fact that the fans who have been clamoring for this, who have been waiting for this, who have been requesting this, the NBA won't give them an all-star game. He won't give the Milwaukee Bucks an all-star game in Milwaukee and the city of Milwaukee and the brand new Fiserv Forum. They won't award them an all-star game. But you award them a Christmas Day game in a pandemic with no fans in the building. Talk about insult to injury. And we ain't even going to talk about the tampering stuff. I mean, it just feels like the NBA hates Milwaukee. It just really feels that way. Let's move on from that. I mean, like I said, really exciting, really good games this season on Christmas Day. But, man, you just really, really wish fans were allowed in Fiserv for that Christmas Day game for the Bucks. But COVID is no joke, and there's a litany of issues as to why it's continuing. I'm not even going to get into that. But I will get into more about COVID and the NFL. Explain to me why the NFL was the last sport with the most time to prepare a COVID response and how to do this responsibly. Come up with policies that work, especially if you're going to have these teams traveling and practicing. And there's a lot of people. It takes a lot of people to put on an NFL game. Team, the personnel, broadcasters, camera people, everything that it takes to put on an NFL game. It takes a lot of more people. So that means you need to be more diligent and more careful and have more stringent policies when it comes to COVID-19. Let me tell you what really, really grinds my gears about the NFL and COVID, because they have not done that great of a job. Despite what Booger McFarland said on the halftime show of Monday Night Football, the NFL has really not, he was talking in terms of, they haven't canceled any games, so they're doing a really good job. They're on the ledge of having to cancel games or extending the season by a week or even two, which is going to be catastrophic. Nothing is more catastrophic than guys getting COVID. Let's be real about that. The long-term effects of it, people who have underlying health issues right now, currently, a guy like Mark Andrews, who, let's talk about it right now. The Ravens have a full-blown COVID outbreak. They were supposed to play the Steelers on Thanksgiving night. That was the primetime game. And we know Ravens and Steelers, a rivalry game. The two teams do not like each other. Those games always end up being hard-hitting, close games. Enjoyable to watch, exactly what you want to watch on what was a very weird Thanksgiving, okay? Especially if you were adhering to the calls of health officials to keep it small. It's a little nice reward for doing what you're supposed to be doing, watching that game. But they are in the midst of a full-blown COVID outbreak, including Mark Andrews, who's a type 1 diabetic, which is something he displayed concern over, but decided not to opt out. So he did take that risk. But at the same time, when someone is being irresponsible, and the person who was being irresponsible was a staffer on the team, did not adhere to any type of protocols about mask wearing and distancing or anything else, and caused this outbreak. Which infuriates me, because people are still not taking this as being real. You have nurses and doctors in South Dakota talking about how people are dying of this disease and still don't want to believe it's real. I can't be dying from COVID. This can't be it. I can't be dying from COVID. And you have people in the NFL working with teams and for teams who decide to not take this seriously and give this disease to other people who, in fact, can go over and give it to other people, and then they spread it. This is not a joke. But I digress. So you move that game from Thanksgiving to Sunday out of abundance for health and safety reasons. But then more people got it. So now you moved it to Tuesday. And then more people got it. And players talk about they haven't been able to condition because they haven't been allowed in the buildings. The NFL closed or banned teams from going into their facilities Monday and Tuesday of this week. Teams that were exempt were teams that were playing games on Monday and Tuesday, because the Steelers had moved that game to Tuesday originally, and on Thursday night football. Well, out of precautions to make sure that the players got their right conditioning in, they then moved this game to Wednesday. Now the Ravens were traveling because they're playing at Pittsburgh. They were traveling today, and more people tested positive. So you still have people testing positive for the Ravens. They are traveling today to go to Pittsburgh to play this game that you have now moved to Wednesday because you want people to get their conditioning because they haven't been allowed into facilities. It's just been mind-numbing. It has just been mind-numbing. The amount of times this game has been moved, the amount of people that continue to catch this disease, the carelessness of that staffer to not adhere to health protocols, just blatantly disregarded it and spread this disease. Now, the NFL was accommodating to a team that has the current NFL MVP on it. But the current NFL MVP has COVID in Lamar Jackson. I mean, they were incredibly accommodating to move this game multiple times for this team, or for both of these teams, because the Steelers are benefiting from it too. On the flip side, which is another thing that grinds my gears about the NFL, the Broncos. All four of their quarterbacks decided to come in on a day that they had off. Commendable. You applaud that. They're putting in work on their craft, even on their off day. Came in to do some film study and some other activities. Nothing wrong with that. Should be applauded. They're in the grind. They're putting in that work. Drew Lock and others. Turns out that none of them were wearing masks, which goes against safety protocol. So they had a blatant disregard for safety protocol, and they're all on a COVID-19 reserve list. Now, I know Drew Lock's mom came out and tried to say, they were putting in work on their off day, and they're so dedicated, they shouldn't be vilified. Sorry, Mama Lock, but they broke the rules. It doesn't matter if it was their off day. There's still safety rules when you enter into NFL facilities. That is where they were watching the game tape, which means whether it's an official NFL activity or not, you still need to adhere to those safety protocol rules. They knew they had to be wearing masks in that room. They knew those were the rules, and they blatantly disregarded those rules, and then they all ended up with COVID. So that makes me mad. But what makes me even madder is the fact that the NFL was not accommodating to them. Yes, they broke rules by not wearing the mask while they were in a room studying game tape. That is absolutely 100% true, and that is on them for breaking those rules. They knew the safety protocols. You need to wear a mask when you're in NFL facilities. They did not, and they ended up catching this disease. But to penalize them for it, they had no quarterback. They literally had to sign a guy from the practice squad, Kendall Hinton, who had played about 2 games with the quarterback at Wake Forest. They signed, and he's a wide receiver, mind you. Signed him up from the practice squad and made him quarterback. This man had virtually no time to study any game tape, no time to study any playbook. Sign off the practice squad, put on a uniform, go out there and play quarterback for us. Now, it's the first time a team has had more interceptions than completions since the Broncos' own Tim Tebow. But first of all, you have to commend and applaud Kendall Hinton for even taking this challenge on. What he did, what he did was just amazing. It was amazing. Yeah, I'm going to go out there. I'm probably going to struggle, but it's not going to stop me from going out there and putting out my best effort. And he did that. He put out his best effort. And I can't be mad at him about that. I can't be mad that he had more interceptions than completions. Not going to be mad at him about that because he should have never been put in that position to begin with. First of all, from the other 4 quarterbacks who decided to be frivolous with the rules and completely disregard them, not wearing masks and all catching this thing, putting their team into that position. But then the NFL should have never allowed this game to happen on that day. They should have been as accommodating as they have been to the Steelers and Ravens. But they were not. The NFL had the most time out of every single league to prepare for this. And everything they've done in regards to this seems real amateur hour for a league that makes billions of dollars and is supposed to have top medical facilities and top medical minds. This looks real amateurish. People's lives are at stake. You have to be firm. But you also have to be accommodating when something like this happens for everyone, not just a team that's undefeated and a team that has the NFL MVP on it. You have to be accommodating to everybody. And boy, did they ever fail to do that. That is a colossal failure on the NFL. They are on the ledge of having to add an extra week, which is going to cause all types of chaos. But I'm more worried about those guys and those staffers and everything else, people who have blatant disregard for the rules and are spreading this all over the place. They need to clean that up, and they need to clean that up yesterday. Hope y'all, that'll do it for me. That was episode 59 of Toss, Tristain on Sports Show. Time for me to get on up out of here. Y'all know where to find me on social media at the20double on Instagram and Twitter. At the number 2, the number 0, and the word double. It's Toss on Facebook. Yes, it is Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. And Toss Nation Media is your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T-Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week, so long from Toss.